And welcome, everybody, to the Scenic City Sports Podcast, episode 33, if you are keeping track, on this rainy, wet Wednesday afternoon. Rusty, Scott, and Rob, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance, the Chattanooga Flower Market, Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga, and all of our Greg Payne Mortgage team, all of our all-star sponsors. We appreciate everybody that helps make this show possible. But joining us for today's podcast episode is going to be Ringgold head football coach, or let me say new Ringgold head football coach, and that is Austin Crisp. Austin, thank you for joining us today. I hope that the gentleman that approached you and slung you into the back of that van with the black bag over your head were a little more gentle than they were the last few guests that we've had, but obviously you were at Studio X. Nobody knows where we are. Nobody knows how to get here. Nobody knows how to get out. But they'll be much nicer to you on the way out.
I hope they are. I got bruised up on the way in. So
let me ask you this. We'll talk about your team here in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But I've followed you since, middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Playing when you were in middle school. All throughout your career, all the different stops. Now you're a head coach for the very first time. Have you thought about what it's going to feel like on really August 4th, but mostly August 18th when you guys take the field for the first time?
I have. I mean, I'm trying to put myself mentally in the worst situations possible to prepare myself for the best situation possible. Everybody's told me you don't know how you feel until that time comes. So right now, just control what we can control what I can control, and when we get there, we'll get there.
What do you expect to be feeling?
A lot of nerves. You know, that first game definitely against Heritage.
You're only playing Heritage. I mean, come on.
Right. If not the largest sellout game in probably that area.
Yeah, there'll be 10,000 people there. No big deal.
No.
It's like a scrimmage.
Rivals Cleveland and Bradley. Huge crowd there. Huge crowd for Ringgold Heritage every year. I mean,
but you played against Trine. You understand a rivalry like that.
Yeah, it's a little different rival. Then you might get your car, key pulling out of Trine. Definitely being a Gordon Lee. When you saw, it was funny. My dad always said when we played at Trine, when you pulled out, you better make sure you're going 45 on that little highway right there with Walker County tags, or you're getting a ticket. So a little bit different in that sense, but still, it's a very good rival.
Yeah, and just like I said, I mean, I know you've thought about the butterflies, or what play you're going to call, or something like that, or just.
I've got the first 4 series.
Are you going to run out with the team through, on the sideline?
No, it's about them. It won't be about me at that point, So no, I've definitely got the first 4 series in my head for sure.
Yeah.
But
I guess validation for everything you've worked up to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, the first win was going to be amazing. When, if it happens. I'm not saying it when it's going to happen.
Austin Crisp predicts a win on
You heard it here first, folks.
None at all.
Breaking news.
That's always a well-coached football team. Jeremy New does a great job defensively. He's always a booger when I'm having to go against him. But he does a really good job, and the whole staff does a good job, man. So
yeah,
it'll be a fun game no matter what.
There was a guy in the NFL called the Playmaker. I've deemed you the play caller.
All right.
That's who you are. You're North Georgia's play caller because you've been doing that a long time. Mm-hmm. You had a tremendous mentor in Robert Akins. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you were blessed to mentor under somebody like Robert Akins.
Not just as a coach, as a human being.
Great person. Yeah. Great person. But has there been anything up to this date, that Robert didn't tell you about?
I don't think so. He's really tried to prepare me over the last, I would say, 2 years to get a job in, whether it was Ringgold or I tried to get a different job or whatever. Because I told him when he first hired me, I said, I want you to know that if I'm here 2 years, my goal is to be a head football coach. That's what I want to do. And he's done everything possible to try to help me and put me in situations and ask me questions of what would you do? He'd always say that, what would you do right here? And I would give him an answer, and he would kind of, probably the wrong answer. But, but he did a lot of...
That's how you learn, too.
That's how you learn, yeah.
Sure.
And, another person that I learned from a lot is Chad Fisher. Chad Fisher, I thought, was a great football coach at Lafayette. He was great at Gordon Central. But he's kind of my go-to guy. If I have an issue or I have a question about something that I want outside opinion on, that's who I call. He's taught me a lot, too. And it's funny because I learned different things from both of those guys who are completely different people. Fisher's more high energy like I am, and Coach Akins is not a high energy guy. He's not that type of person.
He's a CEO.
He is. He's a CEO, but he showed a lot of compassion. He led in a way where you felt bad if you let him down.
Yeah.
You know, it really hurt your heart. I mean, I'm telling you, when we only scored 12 points in the region championship to try to beat Rockmart, I took it personal. Like, I've really let this man down.
We were there.
Yeah, it was.
But that was a fast defense. Me and
That's
Nathan
the fastest,
said
the most athletic defense I've ever
Me
seen.
and Nathan said that Rockmart team reminded us of a typical good Tyner team.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really quick across the board. They ran that wing tee offense, but just getting something past some of their athletes was difficult.
Well, we knew going in that game that it was going to be they're the fastest team that we were going to see. Hands down. I mean, I still think secondary and linebacker wise they were faster than Thompson. But when we realized how fast they were, Corey Dumas broke one and had a 20-yard head start, and he got hawked down in 30 yards, and that's where we were like, all right, we're not going to have any breakaway runs for touchdowns or passes for touchdowns. That's just not how it's going to be. So that was a different speed. But I think that was the year they went and played the state championship game, wasn't it?
Did they play? At least that or semis, maybe.
Yeah, they were close.
Good club.
But I think you hit the nail right on the head talking about Robert, and he's been like that. I mean, we've known him as a coach for 25 years. Yeah, that's exactly. Sure. I mean, and you were disappointed for him when they didn't win. Yeah.
And let me say something. We had Robert here before he left town, and that was a must on our part. We think the world of him, and I know you do as well. But one of the things he said to us, and I always said that Robert was a tremendous quality delegator. He let his coaches coach. Mm-hmm. But he said something to me, if there was any one regret, he says, as a head coach, I would not have given up play calling if I could have redone it. Mm-hmm. Are you the play caller still?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I am.
Did he give you that advice? Okay.
Yeah, we've had that conversation a few times. One of his things was ensure with your whole heart, no matter what, if you decide to turn play calling over, is to the right person. So in my mind, I was thinking, I would like to have somebody call plays, and
but you don't know who it'd be right now.
No, I don't. Yeah. I have a couple in mind, but he also, Chris Parker, he does Parker Resources, great head coach at Pickens County for a long time. He gave me some advice too, and he said, don't give everything away that you love, because as a head coach, there's going to be a lot of things that you don't love. So hold on to those things that you love. I love calling plays.
That's good advice.
I love running the weight room. I love doing those things. So those are the things I'm not going to turn over for, I think, for a long time. Yeah. I mean, you never know. But because the things that you're not going to want to deal with, dealing with parents, dealing with upset parents, dealing with money. God, I didn't realize how much money I dealt with until I took over.
Yeah. Well, Scott and Rusty can echo this, because we've been covering North Georgia and Chattanooga for a long time, and I will say this, certainly under Robert, and there had been some headways being made through Lamar Brown and Sean Gray, but I could see the difference in the involvement in the community that stays there, and those signs that litter those fences that bring in some revenue. That was not there before. So Robert has shared some things, I'm sure, and laid the groundwork, how we can get this community behind us. And it is, Scott. Me and you talked about it. I mean, from the band, from the parents. Now, having success is a big part of that sometimes, but there are people that really, really are interested in Ringgold football.
Well, it's a small town community. Mr. Jones said it best, when you can hit a golf ball to the courthouse in town from the football stadium, that's a small town feel. And he's right. I mean, anytime you have a place, those places like Trine, like Ringgold, like Gordon Lee, those schools like that, Bremen, Rockmart, who are kind of centered around that town, it's a special environment. Yeah. And we're blessed. We've got great supporters. Our Boosters Club is phenomenal. Our board members are phenomenal. But our community is pretty daggum awesome, considering the amount of money that we bring in to help our athletes And there's people that I ran into. I was getting ice cream at the place right down the road from the school, and some guy, he was a business owner, walked in. I'm not going to say who it was, but he was a business owner and said, "Coach, if you need any help, you let me know." Well,
I heard it described not long ago. Our principal one afternoon, we were in a meeting talking about this, that, and the other, and athletics were described as the front porch of the school. Mm-hmm. Athletics are the front porch of the school, because what he said, when I go out in the community, he goes, they don't ask me what our test scores are. They ask me how good the football team's going to be, how good's the baseball team going to be this year. And when one of those organizations begins to be successful, it bleeds down to every other one in the school. When the football team's good, the band tries harder, the basketball team tries harder. It's like a virus that just grows. It's a good virus,
right.
It's a healthy virus that grows within the school.
You see the signs popping up.
Oh, signs pop up.
There's outside of Hardee's.
You have
all the windows
twice the amount of kids coming out for sports than you had the previous year or 2 years before, because it's positivity, it's a sense of community and a sense of pride, and that insignia on your helmet or on your shirt or your hat, whatever it is, it branches off that.
Mm-hmm. Ringo hasn't gotten this far before, but think about the schools that take this thing all the way to state championship. Mm-hmm. They run right up to Christmas break. Mm-hmm. You are getting such a momentous environment in your school because of your football program. Mm-hmm. Now, going 8-2 and all that those get you down the road too. But me and Coach Akins has had that conversation about what a good football record does to that school, mm-hmm. as opposed to maybe the opposite way, and the struggles that go in that school, the absentees, whatever mm-hmm. might be it. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, everything. If you have a bad season, I think everything goes down. Kids get in trouble more often. It almost puts a mood within the walls of the building. If you're having a successful football season going into week 4, 5, 6, the mood of the school's different. Teachers are more willing to do things for you and help you out. It really
good
is.
That you talk about the faculty itself. Mm-hmm.
And our faculty is wonderful. We have most of our teachers show up to football games. They want to see their students be successful. So that's one thing special about Ringgold is we've got community support, we've got faculty support, we've got the custodial support. I mean, when our custodian that does the field house, we have a little whiteboard that she writes on. Every Friday she writes "Good luck, beat the whoever, beat the Blue Devils, beat the General, whoever we're playing." So that's pretty cool.
Yes, absolutely. And one more thing before I let Scott get involved in your team, but since the storm that went back a ways now, and we've talked about this many times. The facilities, the athletic facilities down at Ringo are really pretty good.
They're great.
They really, and I know you just redid the turf this mm-hmm. year. Your thoughts on facilities and not about how it came about, but just the quality that you have down
mm-hmm.
there now.
Well, I mean, we've got a 96-man locker room. We've got a weight room that's attached to the locker room. Our coach's office looks out into the weight room. We have a great facility. I don't know. I mean,
there's a big board,
a humongous jumbotron. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. New turf. The stadium's pretty, and I mean, when you're sitting on the home side bleachers, when I first got the job, I went up there and sat in the home side bleachers for an hour and a half or so, just looking and thinking. You look out there and you see the mountain right over the visitors' bleachers. I mean, it's a special place all the way around.
Two very productive, active concession stands.
Yes. Yes.
One run by the band, one run by
mm-hmm.
your football group. It's really, 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 me and Scott's talked about this before, particularly when y'all are having success, and you've had some lately. It's really a good Friday night environment.
It is. One of my good buddies, he's a head coach around here, and he came and watched the game on their off week, and he said, "Y'all have one of the better environments in our area by far."
You do.
I mean,
you do have a good environment.
You throw that band in there with Tracy mm-hmm. right directing. It's like a Saturday afternoon experience.
It is, and he wants it that way too.
Yeah.
When the officials,
person. Tracy does an outstanding job with the band.
Yes, and Tracy is going to make sure the officials have to turn to him and say the band needs to stay quiet when your defense is on the field. Yeah, so he's going to push that envelope, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your first team.
Mm-hmm.
You guys last year were coming off a team where you lost
Everybody.
Yeah, 21 seniors, I think, 12 of which went on to play college football. You brought back some key players. You had some players step up. You finished second in the region. You get back to the playoffs. Tell me about this team, because you're losing your quarterback. You're losing your top running back. You're losing your top receiver. Losing your top tackler. Losing your top interception guy. Special teams, I think you're losing some of them too.
Well, aren't you special, Scott?
I'm just stating.
The guy didn't even know all that.
I'm just stating facts here. How do you replace them, first of all?
I mean, we have a mentality of next man up. You know, last year, our arguably one of our probably best DBs goes down in the Lafayette game. Cole Runyon steps in and does a fantastic job. We've almost bred that into our minds of next man up. Whatever happens, next man's got to go. You know, we looking at that 2021 group. Yeah, we lost 21 seniors, and we lost a great running back in Corey Demas. We lost a great quarterback in Mason Parker, but then we replaced him with Peyton Williams. We replaced them with Garrett Eggert at first, and he breaks his hip and still finishes the game, might I add. We replaced him with Ross Norman. We replaced Malachi Hill and Jordan Wyman with Ty Gilbert. So we have that history of grooming those guys in the lower level grades to when it's time to step on a Friday night, they can go.
And this is a program, and of course I've been following it from the middle school on, that the talent has been there, has been coming through, and you guys have been cultivating that and getting them ready in the weight room and stuff like that. So you've got players that, I mean, let's be honest, they probably would have started last year had not been good seniors in front of them.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we are bringing back almost our entire secondary minus Ty. We're bringing back Keyshawn Taylor, Braxton Holtkamp at receivers with Trey Akins. Trey Akins was doing a fantastic job until he knocked himself out at Northwest. You know, we're bringing back offensive line-wise Travis Talley, Nolan Birchfield, Jack Mealer, and our H-back, who played a lot of guard, Jim Clark. So we're bringing back 4 of those guys. Bringing back Garrett. You know, I don't think there's a worse environment for a sophomore to start in other than the first Heritage game when they were loaded. They were
very senior oriented.
That was one of the best schemed defenses that I've been a part of, that I've seen. But when you look at, like I said, when you look at the kids we're losing, we're really replacing those kids, and that goes down to our middle school. That's a shout out to Dallas McGee, you know, our head middle school coach. That's a shout out to our head JV coach, Kobe Holtkamp, and Chris Davis is our JV defensive coordinator. So I mean, we got some guys who are cultivating those kids to be prepared on a Friday night.
Who's new people on the staff this year?
We got Lee Bohannon, who me and Lee go way back. There was a time when Lee used to shoot me out.
Lee?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
There was a time
Gordon
when
Lee, Lafayette. He's been at
Cedartown, CCS.
Okay. I think it was Gordon. Was it Gordon Central for a while too?
He was. I don't know when.
Was he there when Fisher was there?
No.
Did he coach at Chattanooga Christian too?
He did. He was at Chattanooga Christian for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
But man, me and Coach Bobo go way back. At one point, he was chewing my butt out on the sidelines at Gordon Lee because he was my offensive coordinator when I was playing.
Might have overheard one of them conversations once or twice.
There is no doubt you probably have. We've got Cameron Evans, who is he's our quarterback coach. He's a whole lot better quarterback coach than I ever was, for sure, and he's 24 years old, I think, 23 or 24. He was a national champion at Lindsey Wilson. He's legit. He's legit. I'm excited to have him. Then we added Matt Burgess. Matt Burgess played at Georgia Southern. We got him over there. Then of course we still got Coach White. We got both Coach.
Are we talking about Matt Burgess that played for Ringgold and went to Georgia Southern?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, sir. That's him.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Back, he graduated in let's see, 02, I think, or one or
sure.
two. Yeah. Okay. All right. I know the young man.
One of the original days of Ringgold Rob.
Well, I do remember. And then he had a younger brother that came along after that played linebacker. Had a good future, but tore an ACL before he got out of there.
Mm-hmm. So that's our newest hires. I feel like we've got a great staff.
So you retained?
We retained most of them. Yes, sir, we did.
Okay.
We did.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about a little bit about that opening well, at least opening in front of the big lights, the practice game that's going to be at Finley on Thursday night against Saudi Daisy. How'd that come about for Ringgold?
That was actually a Coach Aikens thing before he retired. That was something working out in January, and I don't know how it came about. I never really asked him. I was just excited to play at Finley.
Well, head coach up there at Saudi Daisy was former assistant at
Carter.
Yeah, at
Coach Caldwell.
So
I'm hearing Rusty chuckling. I'm thinking the same. I bet we're all thinking the same thing because the atmosphere for Finley
will be insanity. Sorry.
And, most of our kids have never played at Finley. I mean, I know you have all those rec games and stuff, but for 95% of our kids, this is the first time we're going to set foot in the stadium.
We'll tell you that story off.
Yeah, we will tell you that story off here.
Yeah,
it sounded like that was going to happen.
It's a good one. That'll be in the book one of these days.
Well, we were glad to see that when the schedule was thrown out and we saw that, because this goes back a long ways. But even Stump Martin used to preach for Georgia to have some part of the jamboree, even if you had to spread it out a night or two before that. And the fact that the way y'all do y'all's scrimmages versus Tennessee, they do a bunch, but they don't get to do what y'all do under a game type situation. If you had your rathers, would you rather do it Tennessee style or Georgia style? I'm sure you see a benefit both ways.
There is. I personally like Georgia's way of doing it, just because, one, you're not, I don't want to say burning kids out, but the more you do preseason, the more opportunity you have for injuries, in my opinion.
Sure.
I'm not scared of it. I mean, you can't be scared of injuries, but I do like how Georgia does it with just the two scrimmages. I do wish that something was implemented with, if you do a spring, you have to do one scrimmage. I don't, whatever.
You wish that didn't have to be like that.
Sure, but I get why they do it. I'm not arguing saying that it's silly or anything. I understand why they're doing it.
And you're doing two scrimmages this year.
Yes, sir.
You didn't do spring. Is that your decision not to do spring, or was that already decided?
No, it was. It was my decision not to do spring. Coach Aikens had retired in plenty of time enough for me to make that decision. My biggest thing was, one, our baseball team was so successful, we made sure that baseball was full focus. Me and Coach Walker are great friends, and so I'm more than willing to not do a spring to ensure that our student body and stuff goes to those games.
Well, and
Ringo's going down to Coosa on August 4th.
They're coming to us.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
they're coming here, and then they're going over to Finland for that. So.
And we were just talking about Coosa a while back, how they've so improved their athletic facilities down there over.
I don't know anything about them. I went down and spoke at a clinic at Joey's place down there, Coach Mathis, and he's an outstanding guy. I just happened to text him because I got to thinking, I was like, we don't have a second scrimmage. So I'm like, hey, man, do you want to scrimmage us? Or are you good to come up here? And he just texts back, absolutely. So I don't know anything. I don't know what classification they are. I don't know much of anything.
They're single A Division One. They're in the region with Pepperell and Dade and Darlington and Tryon.
I was just happy that we didn't have to go host Colquitt County or anything like that. So.
and typically speaking,
why not?
Typically speaking,
get Buford too while you're
there's always a quality one or two good really athletes on their football program and a fast team.
Yeah, I know a couple years ago they had the big tight end from that ended up signing with Tennessee because they came up and played Lafayette, and this kid was a monster. I don't think he's at Tennessee now, but they've had some good athletes. They've had a couple down years the last few years, but I think they're starting to rebound a little bit.
Well, he does a good job, and he's fighting a hard battle with. I mean, he's got a bunch of schools right around him that's fighting for kids. So he does a good job too.
Yeah, you think Catoosa's bad? I mean, they got like 6 or 7 schools down there in Floyd that everybody's.
Then you got a city school down there, and it's hard.
And a private school.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like what Calhoun deals with. I mean, right there, 3 schools in that county, and they still wind up with all the athletes, but constant battle.
Well, they are going to get the football players. Gordon Central are. Just based on past experience.
It's early, and you don't know how this will play out, and what you might think your strength might be your weakness, and vice versa. But right at this point in time, what do you think's the strength of that team?
I think we're athletic. I think we're a very athletic team. I think we're young. I would say that would be our necessarily our weakness. Is we've got some guys who have never played on a Friday night before. But I think definitely on the back end, our secondary is very athletic. We've got some pretty athletic receivers. We have a returning quarterback who I know he only played one game, but that's one of the hardest games he's going to play in too. So
and I thought he looked great throwing the ball up there at times at Dade County the other day when I got
to
see
did.
him a little bit.
I was
really a nice deep ball.
Mm-hmm. I was really proud of him. He's getting better, and I think that's Coach Evans doing a whole lot better job than I ever did.
Well, talking about 7-on-7, and I've been critical sometimes when I say, after I've seen a few, I don't want to see any more because some teams are not even going to do any of this stuff. But your thoughts on 7-on-7 and the importance that you find it for your team?
I think I want to see kids compete. I want to see them compete for the ball. I want to see how competitive they are. I want to see that if they get shut down one-on-one coverage, how are they going to rebound? Are they going to drop their head down? Are they going to whine about it? Whatever. I want to see how they're going to, move forward from that. We always say, bad plays don't equal bad days, and that's what we want to ensure that just because our kid has a bad day, don't mean his next play's going to be bad too.
Let's take a moment about the schedule. We talk about opening up at Heritage, and we know what kind of crowd's going to be there, and rightfully so. Then we move on. Mm-hmm. I looked at your schedule. You're 5 at home and 5 away. Mm-hmm. The importance that you think about who's coming to you, and how big that is for them to be on your home turf this particular year.
Northwest is a very hard environment to play in down there.
Big crown.
I don't know. I guess I don't know what it is, but Northwest was tough to play in. Having them helps. Having them at home helps. But then we go to Gilmer County. Gilmer County is a long drive. Mm-hmm. It's a long way up there.
Is it up the mountain a little bit?
It feels like it's at the very tip top of the mountain.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I
get busted.
And you're going to play a funky
triple option
with Paul Standard running, who they have taken to that offense really, really well.
Yes, unfortunately they have.
You've got an experienced DC in Houston White. And when you see variants of different styles like that, and maybe this Gilmer team is somebody you only have to prepare for something like that one time all year, the importance behind Houston knowing a lot of different offenses and playing that role for you.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he does a fantastic job. He's been around the block. He's been a head coach, been a coordinator on both sides of the ball. He's been in Texas. So he's seen it just about everything. So it definitely helps having those experienced guys. I mean, you look at it, we've got with Houston, with Mark Davis, with Lee Bohannon, with Kobe Holtkamp, and we've got like 150 years of experience between those guys, So not really 150 years.
They look.
You know what I'm saying?
They look.
A couple of them do, and I'm not going to say who.
Yeah. We know who you're talking about.
No, Houston does a fantastic job, and we always... since I've been at Ringgold, me and Houston's always bounced ideas off each other. I'll go to Houston and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?"
Well, that's excellent because you want to understand the other side of the ball.
Absolutely. When at heart, I'm a defensive guy. I first started coaching. I was a defensive guy. So
offense come challenging to you, huh?
It did at first, and I learned most of my spread stuff from Chad Fisher. He was a big Tony Franklin guy at the time. Even though we were running wing T. Me and him would get on the board all the time. But being able
and a shout out to Chad and his son that played in the World Series.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah,
Holy
absolutely.
Cow.
He's a good looking ball player. Wished I'd have seen him play in high school. I did see his older boy who pitched for Stump and played quarterback. I saw all that, but I did not see this little phenom.
Yeah, he's legit. It's funny though. I text Chad and I said, "Hey, tell your boy congratulations." But my Haley's still my favorite fisher, his daughter. So I always give him a hard time. But
well, I mean, tremendous athlete. And Stump used to always talk about coming from those two parents that there's got to be an athlete fall out of there.
Every one of them are athletes. I mean, Haley was a great athlete. Ty was a great athlete. And so was Case. I don't know. You can tell they all got it from their mama for sure, though.
Well, that's what Stump used to point that out very often.
Yeah.
Gave Chad no credit.
Yeah, of course not.
What do you think about the region shaping up? I mean, it looks like Adairsville's bringing back. I mean, they lose a 1,600-yard running back and bring back a 1,500-yard running back. and a lot of other people too. So I mean, you don't want to just give it to them. They are obviously one of the favorites, but everybody else seems like they've either come up or down a little bit, and it's everybody's kind of right there together.
That's what, I think I was talking to Lindsey Young about this the other day. When you look at 2 through 8, you really don't know who's going to win the ball game. You really can't.
A lot of parity now. You feel like this year.
It is.
And I'm not saying Adair's was unbeatable, because
No.
Gordon Lee hung with them through 3 quarters last year, and a couple other teams came close to beating them.
Well, who was Adairsville last year that allowed them to win that region? What did they have that made it that nobody could beat them?
I thought their defensive scheme is something that I always loved. They're a 4-2-5 team with split field coverage. And Coach Cudd, man, he does a great job. You bet that those linebackers are not going to misread a guard pull or a down block or a zone. They're not going to miss anything. I mean, they're so disciplined.
Coached up.
They are very coached up. Now, they've got some dudes. I mean, to be honest with you, they had some dudes last year.
I wanted to hear you tell the truth.
Yeah, I'm always going to tell you the truth. Might not like it, but I'm going to tell you the truth. They got some dudes. I'd love for, I think we play in week 6, if that comes down to the region title game. I'd love that. But they are very athletic.
When you got Adairsville at home.
We do.
Another game that we're talking about, those 5 at home.
Mm-hmm.
To you, I feel you think that's important.
It is very important. Anytime you can not go to Adairsville, and I'll be honest with you, Lafayette's a hard place to play too. I don't know what it is about Lafayette, but it's a hard place to play. So anytime you can host in Adairsville, Lafayette, Northwest, it helps.
Well, if that Rambler's running up and down the sidelines, and you're the opposing team,
It's those places
that's not going well.
What's the one, Stump used to say when you got off the bus, you were 2 scores down when you got off the bus just because of the atmosphere. I mean, to me in this area, Tryon's probably real high on that list. Calhoun's really high on that list too. Yeah. I mean, Calhoun is just so dadgum intimidating. I mean, when you walk into that stadium as the opposing team, they know. I mean, they just know. I mean,
and I said that's one of the strongest Friday night atmospheres if you've ever been there. I've been there regular season.
Calhoun is incredible.
I've been as a spectator, just watching, enjoying a football game, and I've been on the away side, and being on that away sideline is tough.
Well, the crowd's on top of you. Mm-hmm. It's loud. It's a town that shuts down and comes over and watches football.
Legitimately shuts down.
They come over
when the Wendy's is supposed to be selling burgers at midnight, they're not. They're over there in the cheering section. But that's
Calhoun is dadgum. What's the one from Friday Night Lights?
Odessa.
I mean, I'm telling you, Calhoun is kind of like the Odessa Pyramid of this area.
Calhoun in Odessa Pyramid.
Listen, man. I mean, when I was finishing school, I worked. When I was finishing school, I worked at the Sports Spectrum, the sports stop down in Calhoun a lot. And so, because it was a sports shop, a lot of times there would be people over there at the outlet mall, and I would get the husbands and the sons and stuff like that hanging out because this was stuff they could look at.
They ain't got no booby miles.
No booby miles.
If you want to win, put booby in. Right?
But right. Those guys down there, man. I mean, they go to practices just to go. I mean, you're liable to go to practice at Calhoun on a Thursday afternoon, and there'll be 10 or 12 alumni sitting up in the stands. We just checking out what's going on up there with their rings and stuff.
But I started this thing talking about Ringgold. There's some similarities in that. The people are backing you. We're just talking about a baseball team that came off a state championship run that didn't get there, but sports in general, Coach, is important down at Ringgold.
It is. It's very important. I mean, and it has to be. For a small town community, it has to be important.
Well, I've been critical of saying this before, and I don't think you'll take it any different. Robert Akins helped change the culture of Ringgold football being a program instead of waiting on a team to come around every 6 years and saying we got a team this year. And you know the difference, okay?
There's a big difference.
And I credit him taking those 8th graders and having them ready for when it was their turn to play as 10th graders that they were ready to play. And I don't think that's always been the case when you're always waiting on kids to turn out and be seniors before we can win a football game.
Sure.
But along with that has come, Ringgold's been known as a baseball school, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. All those region championships, all those potential state championship winners, they hadn't come up with one yet, but they've been right there. Ringgold doesn't own a region championship in football. That to me, I think, is something that is really, really, really desired in Ringgold.
It's very much desired in Ringgold, and I promise you, it's not desired any less by any player that we've got or any coach that we got. We want it just as bad as anybody. We want it as bad as the business that's been there for 65 years. I promise you. And there would be nothing more special than to give Ringgold, the community, that as a present. I mean, absolutely.
One of my favorite all time. And Scott, you were there. I think you were there the night Ringgold on a field goal beats North Murray. Down there at North Murray.
I wasn't there.
Amazing game.
I saw the highlights.
Amazing game. I mean, you're the OC. You ain't done. Your offense ain't done much the first half.
Not in the first half, they didn't.
But
we
the second
put the
half,
ball on the ground too many times.
It was just a turnaround. It was just a game of two different halves almost. And then your kicker gets that opportunity. A very fine kicker too, gets that opportunity to win the game. And
that was a big learning thing that Robert taught me that game, because I'm coming off into I'm red, my neck's red, I'm mad.
Well, you ought to be. I mean,
I'm furious. And Coach Akins says, "Don't rip them, fix them."
He told me that.
I said, "Okay." So I walked in and we got on the board.
You better bottle that because that worked.
Yep. And we got on the board. We didn't, and believe it, we really didn't make any changes that game. We didn't do a ton of different things. We still ran counter. We just got in two-back to do it because we could set the defensive front where we wanted it. So it wasn't a big ordeal. It was fixing the little things.
Well, I remember you, Jason, your line coach, said what we want to run and block we can't do. We have to alter this a little bit. And so I'm assuming that's what you did. I don't.
We just got a little bit different formation.
Okay. Well, and I know you had one back just run hog wild, and I think the other one had a big second half too.
He did. Both of them did. I mean, I think Corey might have busted a couple for probably 80 yards, and Peyton busted a couple for, what was it, 200 something wild like that.
It was a big. And Robert talked about that in the interview of that game. He said everybody was upset that we knew we didn't play well, but I told my coaches, let's not go in there and jump on them. Let's just say, hey.
I'm glad he beat me to the front door because I was ready to rip.
She didn't have the best the first half. I will say that. But I think everybody over there knew it too. But what a second half.
It was. I feel like the whole game came together. I mean, but you know what? That's why football games are 4 quarters and not 2. So.
Let me ask you this. You're head coach now. Got all this responsibility, all this time-consuming responsibility of being a head coach. Now you got a little girl at home. You turned 1 today.
Congratulations.
She's taking a nap. She should be waking up from her nap right now.
Congratulations.
Tink you.
And I know, like I said, you've only been head coach for a short while, and been a dad for a short while. How have you already learned to balance things out?
I haven't learned that yet. I'm still learning. It's still a learning process. The biggest thing for me is just ensure that I'm home when I need to be. I'm there for my wife when I need to be, and I'm there for my daughter when I need to be, but also when I need to be there for football, and I need to be there for a player. When I need to be there for a player whose father's sick or mother's died or anything like that, I need to be there for them too. It's funny. Me and Coach White were talking. Have you ever watched the Netflix series The Quarterback yet?
I have not.
My daughter has been on me for 3 or 4 days now to start watching.
Well,
I have not yet. I'm going to. No, I plan on it. I know that when I start, I'm going to want to just binge the whole daggone thing.
Start at 5, and then you'll go to sleep at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's fine.
There we go.
So Kirk Cousins takes every Tuesday off. That's his day. It's his day with his family. We already had plans to go on Tuesday morning. That's our team day. We do our individual, our team teach stuff on Mondays. And we do our full team stuff on Tuesdays. during the season. We're going to go in the mornings to ensure that every coach in there has family time. You know, it's hard to get the wife support of being there, because let's be honest, coaches are working 80 hours. Not with school involved.
You're right.
Outside of school, we're working 80 hours a week. So to get those wives on board, we got to do something. So that really...
I noticed you've been posting family pictures of people's birthdays. Have
That's
you seen
one.
that? I spotted that.
You know, that's one thing we believe in family with, you know, if you notice there's the I as a one. Well, that's because the family comes first. Your faith and your family have got to come first in anything you do in life, not just football. But that's something where, you know, going on Tuesday morning and maybe do 20 minutes of film on a Tuesday afternoon. But I'm kicking everybody out of the office at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're getting out.
Yeah.
We got to have time with our family, you know, and Coach Evans, he doesn't have a daughter. He's got a beautiful wife at home, but you know he's got to get his golf game ready too. So that's a good time for him, even though he doesn't have a kid yet.
Yeah.
You know? And we just want to ensure that we are doing what we can to keep the family intact. One thing we talked about was there's 3 hoods in life. You've got childhood, you got boyhood, and you got manhood. Parents kind of take their kids from childhood to boyhood. It's our job as coaches to help take them from boyhood to manhood. And the way we define manhood is a man is there for his family, and he puts his family's needs above his own needs and wants. You would call us a hypocrite if I'm saying, no, we're going to practice until 6:30 every day. You're going to meet on Saturdays and Sundays. What kind of person am I? That's a hypocrite. We're not going to do that. If we're going to try to take these kids from boyhood to manhood and teach them the ways of being a good father, being a good husband, a good community leader, a good employee, we've got to live by it too. You know, so that's to be honest, man, the Kirk Cousins interview he had in that TV show, I was like,
He picked up some things.
Picked up a lot.
Probably really changed your opinion of him as well, too, because I know there were a lot
Kirk
of...
Cousins is my favorite quarterback. Listen, I'm in Oklahoma. I'm Sooner born, Sooner bred, one of dollars, Sooner dead. Kirk Cousins is my favorite quarterback in the league. And I'm a huge Baker fan. I love Baker. Baker did amazing things at the University of Oklahoma. Kirk Cousins is my guy.
Well, you know, as a coach, it's hard sometimes. You know, you struggle with how should I do this, how should I do that, and the reality is that if you are present in the school and you are doing the things that you're supposed to do and saying the things that you're supposed to say and acting the way that you're supposed to be and being the ambassador for your program, all your boys see that. I don't coach near as many boys as you have. I coach the golf team, so I've got, you know, at any given time, I've got 10 to 12 boys.
But you're still making an impact on them.
You got to be that example. If you show them how to act, it bleeds down. They will think twice. I mess with my kids all the time. Like, before you do something stupid, think to yourself, what's Coach going to say to me when he sees me on Monday when I do this?
Yep.
All right, Coach. Yeah,
you know, we have one team. Don't embarrass the program.
Well, yeah.
It's that simple. Don't do anything to embarrass the program. Don't be on the news. Don't be in the busted.
You put me in the office on Monday, and life ain't gonna be fun on Monday afternoon.
Yep, sure.
I mean, now that's all there is to it.
100%.
What's your numbers, Coach?
Okay, so we're teetering right now. We're teetering between about 93 or so right now. We started out at 111.
Your locker room only holds 96.
We had some kids had to double up, but we're around 91 to 93 right now.
That's a good number.
It is. We've got eight student assistants. We've got 10 coaches. We've got we're trying to get some things worked out. We got a couple quote unquote graduate assistants, analyst type guys that are not really going to be in the coaching role, but helping us every way we can. So we're putting together a support staff, a football staff, student assistants, and everything. So
I think most of the schools are doing that now, or they're trying to. They got a director of football operations, and they got a recruiting guy, and everything else.
Well, it also, I mean, the way the world is now, you have to be that way. I mean, Coach White's our recruiting coach, not recruiting kids in, getting kids scholarships.
Yes, let's clarify that.
You need to clarify it with me.
Yes.
He helps find colleges for current players.
Right.
At Ringgold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then,
Now I'm clear.
Mark Davis is our community relations guy. He's been in the community the longest, so he's going to be helping with the rec department and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Tony Code is player relations. Anytime a kid gets in trouble or we have to make an adjustment to something like that, he helps me with that. So Chris Davis is director of football operations. He's ensuring all of our equipment's there, all our equipment's good, all of our clothes are ordered and all that stuff. So I learned that, how to delegate. And I'm still trying to
You can't
learn
do it
that.
all.
No.
And let me say this. I have seen coaches in the high school ranks that are trying to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's going to get the best of them. Even if they think they're pretty good at it, that's going to get the best of them trying to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say that. I mean, me and Scott talked about it. I mean, I've seen some head coaches that are doing it all, even the play calling. I ain't got a problem with the play calling, but Robert was somebody that really looked like a fine delegator. I think he at least realized. But he did tell us before he left here, the one regret was turning over play calling. He says, I think you should do that.
Right. Yeah, and he's I'm right there with him right now, so I'm not turning it over. To me, if I'm gonna get fired as a head coach, I'm at least gonna have a factor in if I'm on the plays or not. So, but yeah, that's definitely a conversation that he and I had several times.
What part of play calling in your world, and we think about people that we think are good play callers. Everybody says, "Well, Lane Kiffin's a great play caller." You talked about Chad being helpful to you, but what is it that you want to see from the big vision when you're calling plays? What makes you put that plan together? I'm
a numbers guy, and it sounds simple, but if we got more in the box that we can block, then we might want to throw the ball around a little bit. It's almost as simple as that. I enjoy the setup. I enjoy trying to get that safety to bite down on a counter play. After we've ran counter 3, 4, 5 times.
So you're big on running some plays that are in your mind that's setting up play number 4.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's something I think about as I'm watching film on Saturday, really. I start watching film on Saturday. But that's something I'm thinking about Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then even into Friday. I mean, I've changed my last year a couple times. I changed my entire series, my first call series on my head, 20 minutes before kickoff, because it's dawned on me, So
dawned on that I had the wrong set of plays prepared?
More or less set up. Yeah, you could say that for sure. But more or less of how we want to set things up. Everybody knows that we run counter. Everybody knows that we run mesh. But it's the things we can do off of counter, the things we can do off of mesh to set teams up. I mean,
this year's team, you hope to be balanced, or do you see yourself one way or the other?
I don't like the word balance. I don't. If we have to throw the ball 90% to win the ball game, that's what we're going to do. If we got to run the ball 90%, that's what we got to do. People, this is kind of controversial. One thing that Fisher told me a long time ago was, if you're thinking you have to be 50% balanced, 50% run, 50% pass, you're probably 50% stupid. And in a sense, he's right, because if they've got 8 guys in the box, 7 guys in the box,
and you're still trying to run the
and football. I'm 2-by-2 formation or a trips formation, I'm an open look, I'm a spread look, why am I trying to run the football? So that's I agree with that. I agree that do what you got to do to win the daggone ball game. So
people get set in their ways, though, man. I mean, they
do, and that that goes back to. If you really want, we listen. We run counter. Everybody and their brother that has watched Ringgold play, we love counter. But we were different in 2020 than we were in 21. We're different in 22 than we were in 21. Mm-hmm. We're going to be a little bit different in 23 versus 22 because we've got a different set of kids.
Because of personnel.
Mainly personnel. Unfortunately, I ain't had a tight end since I've been there. So
And prior to you, they had tight ends.
right,
They did.
So I don't know where they went, but I wish they would come back. But I base most of offensively around the quarterback. What can he do? Mason Parker was a playmaker, so we could put a lot on him, and sometimes he's just going to make a play. Mm-hmm. Ross Norman has been a shortstop his whole life, so he didn't really have the.
And he didn't even have a background in being a quarterback to speak of, right?
Kind of
played really hardly.
So his freshman year, and this shows you really how kids turn around. His freshman year, we called him Baby Deer because he was just a long, lanky kid that just ran kind of like he's trotting through the field. Ends up being a great athlete, and that dude picked up a ball. It didn't matter if it was a white ball with laces or if it was a brown ball with laces, or he could pick up a tennis ball. Mm-hmm. He was good at anything he did.
You're 6'7", you play
just
shortstop.
Natural athlete,
right? Yeah,
that tells you all you need to know.
Right. So we go down to Murray County in a JV game, and I don't remember what year it is. And I'm on the phone with Ross because I'm driving because we had varsity practice. We're heading to a JV game, and I'm on the phone with Ross saying, "Listen, this kid's went home sick. You're going to have to play quarterback." And he's like, "Okay, cool, I'll do it." So I'm telling him, "Listen, we're going to run double post with the back in the flats as a passing concept. We're going to run fast fox. We're going to run a couple of these things, and here's your reads." I'm on the phone with this kid on the way to the game. He goes into a JV game and throws for like 225 yards. Like, that's just
an athlete.
So you picked up
an
even
athlete.
when he was a sophomore. This might be something that
it could be
of use down the road.
Yes, absolutely. If I could take, some of the kid's brain and put it in his body, because he didn't play the game a lot. He was a baseball player. But if I could have took some of these kids I've had, their brain, a Cole Kibler's
give
brain,
him the football IQ.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
There's that kid's potential. His ceiling just went from a lower Division II to a Power 5.
Well, Coach White's young son that was such a defensive prowess back there.
But sometimes though, man, like people overthink the game itself because if you run. Let's say you run 15 plays. Mm-hmm. If you run those 15 plays to perfection, you can win running those 15 plays. You don't have to have a 482-play playbook with 75 audibles and all that kind of stuff. You play to your strengths, and if you do just a few things well, then do those well things to the absolute max.
100%.
And I've been probably critical of saying this before, and I think colleges now are a little bit different. I think they recruited to a scheme. Mm-hmm. Now I think their schemes are kind
fluid,
of wide open.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
But I always said a high school coach has to deal with what he's got. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing to say, well, we're going to run this. Well, hold on a minute. You don't have any of that personnel that you keep saying you're going to run. So why do you want to put yourself in that box? As a high school, particularly offensive coordinator, you've had to breach out a little bit and say, I'd like to do this, but we're not geared to do this. Mm-hmm. We got to do something else.
Right.
Your thoughts?
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. When you look at who we've become and who we've been, 2020 we're a jet-based team with counter misdirection. And 21 we're a vertical threat, still running counter. In 2022 we become more of a little bit more zone team, kind of more play action. But every year we've got a set of things that we know that we can teach and we know that we can do. We know that we can run counter. Give us any offensive line, we'll be able to run counter. Last year we were not an RPO team. Everything we did, it looked like an RPO, but it was a play action. This year we're
because you didn't put that kind of pressure on Ross to know that read.
Yeah, and
you told him what to do.
Mason Parker he was able to run a little bit more RPOs, but he was a play action kid too. There was a times where we'd call play action, and I would literally yell across the field, "Throw the post," or "sail," or we had different signals where if I wanted him to throw that route, we would call the signal. Mason could run a couple RPOs. Garrett Egger is a very, very intelligent kid. Rhett Blankenship is a very intelligent football player. Isaac Talley, so the three quarterbacks we have right now is Garrett Egger, Isaac Talley, Rhett Blankenship. All three of those guys are smart enough to run multiple RPOs. So we're going to be a little bit different. We're not going to be as play action. We're going to all be on
We're running the single wing is what he's saying.
Right.
So he is doing that one offense.
We're really going to confuse some people this year.
The single
Nobody in
wing.
the backfield.
Well, that's
If
always
you
been
hear
my
us
drive.
signals, we're running the single wing.
And maybe high school coaches are getting a little bit away from this. Colleges are, I think, from a standpoint of this is what we do, so we're only going to run these series of plays. And whether we have that personnel to do that real well with, this is just what we're going to live or die with. I think that's just, let's be better than that. Let's do something different.
Yeah.
Well, I think the offense has to, not only just the personnel, but, what the defense is giving you, too. I'll never forget, I was at a football game years ago, and one team was running the ball, just running it. And the running back was getting 9 yards, 8 yards, 6 yards, 11 yards, just getting them off in chunks. And I think it was, I don't know if it was a band parent. Somebody came up in the press box and were like, when are they going to throw the ball? I said, when that kid's legs fall off.
I was going to say, when he
They
stops
throwing
getting
the ball when they're getting the first down every 2
when he
plays.
stops getting 5+ yards a carry. I mean, come on.
Well, he just
man.
said something under his breath, but I'm glad he said that. They're going to get you fired.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm not.
running the ball so
I don't
well,
want to
so
see
we can
somebody
throw
lose
it.
their job, but I'm thinking, why are you in an offense that you have no personnel to do that? But this is, by golly, what we're going to do. As a high school
that's
coach, I
us.
think you got to be. I think you got to be almost broader than what
Well, you can't recruit.
what college coaches were doing, because they were recruiting to a scheme. Now, I do think some of those college coaches have expanded those schemes entirely. We don't just say we run the wishbone and that's it.
Right. Well, with look at Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. is his OC. Charlie Weiss Jr. has a system that he runs. Well, he can plug in a quarterback, go find one from California, from Texas, anywhere, and plug that kid into that system. And he's the one that said it. I listened to him 2016 at a clinic in Atlanta, and he said, somebody asked a question, hey, how do you get your quarterback to know all these front side pre-snap, post-snap reads in an RPO system? And he says, I recruit the smart ones. So, well, that's a really good answer, because that's what he's able to do.
I mean,
And he's the one that said, you guys have the tough job. You have to fit a mold. You have to take your quarterback and place him into a successful system. I don't have to do that.
and you have to play with what you get.
Exactly.
You may get a kid this year that's a straight A student and a damn Rhodes Scholar, and next year you may get a kid that has to have a little extra help, and you just don't know what you're going to have. That's the crux of high school athletics, and it ain't just football. That's in everything, man. I mean, you play with what you have. Now, at the same time, you're going to have your schools out there. The private schools, that's a great example. Private schools run wherever the hell they want to, because they go find the athletes to plug into whatever holes they have. High school, public school teams, when you see them change an offense to something simple, well, it's because they don't have the kids that know how to do all that other crazy stuff. I mean, sometimes that wing T, or Scott joked the single wing, sometimes
That's what they can
that's
do.
what you got. Listen,
And I
man.
understand that if that's all they can do.
How many years did Coach Bill Napier down at Murray County run the triple option, and those guys could literally walk to the line and tell you where they were going to pitch it, and you couldn't stop it?
Well, and that's a good point.
I mean,
that's a good
because
point.
they ran it to perfection.
I think for a high
Yeah,
school
Marist.
coach, I think for a high school coach to have as much success potentially that they can, they need to have the ability, the power, so to speak, to tell that those bottom layers, this is what we do here. We need you to follow it. Not let's go down and tell, this is what you do here, y'all do your own thing. Your thoughts on that?
I mean,
Coach Teague down at Carrollton, who had a whole bunch of success, Raymond Teague, he had the ability to tell the middle schools and the recs, this is what we do, and this is why we do it.
it definitely Trine does the same thing. They're very
You see the importance behind that?
It's extremely
Marion County,
important.
South Pittsburgh, all of them up there. When you run the same offense from the time you're 4 to the time you're 18 years old, you tend to learn the
And
system.
even if you teach those people maybe at the middle school, this is the language.
Well, that's what we're blessed with Dallas McGee down there, because Dallas
was he was tied in.
he was.
There's one of your tight ends.
I need him to go and start having some kids. But no, Dallas does a good job with that, and he's completely bought into what we do offensively. to where when our kids come up, when I give we have code calls, so we're not calling counter right, we're calling different words. So when they come up, they know
the language.
They
There you
understand.
go.
They're already pulling. I mean, he has them pulling in middle school.
Okay.
So if we can get those kids pulling in middle school, then we're going to be okay when we get to high school.
And Coach Crownover
He did.
retired finally.
Finally.
Now,
I love
I
Coach
think you
Crownover.
can lure him back. It might take a hot dog and a Coke, but I think you
Yeah.
can get him back down there.
Yeah.
Maybe some fried Oreos.
Well, he just likes to be
Deep fried,
around the
yeah.
ball fields, and you know what? Let me say this about Coach Crownover. He's a friend of mine. But first of all, you talking, and I've said this to him, you talking about the adhesiveness, the glue of a school
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. No, he wasn't head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He was on a lot of different staffs and a lot of different programs, did a lot of coaching. That was one of those glues that left Ringo High School
Mm-hmm.
when he retired.
It was. I mean, everybody, that dude can walk through Nashville. If he walks down Nashville Street, 25 people will pull over and say, "Do you need anything, Coach? You know, I need to pick you up. I need to take you somewhere." I mean, he's well known in the community. He's well respected in the community. I love the guy. I got to teach with him for a couple of years, and we had a good time together. We really did.
That you know, you're happy to see people get their retirement, but that's a big loss at Ringo. I've told that many times. He was part of the adhesiveness of that school,
Mm-hmm.
and he had such a footprint over in the middle school.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, he's still around though. I don't think you can beat him away with a stick when it comes to sports. But he's at every football game. He gave me a hug after the Gilmer game last year. You know, so he's still around. And
Well,
he'll probably be the first one to say, "Man, why did you call that?" You know, so he's that.
What were you thinking?
Yeah. And I would listen to him and say, "You know what? You're right."
You're right, Coach. I
Well,
probably shouldn't have done
one
that.
of the other members that is absent today from Scenic City Sports, Nathan Cook, who you don't have any bigger fan than Nathan Cook. He really likes the way you coach football. Trust me when I tell you that. And he's outspoken about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be up Meigs County, and he's talking about Ringo's football coach that's calling plays down there. Well, they don't care,
Right.
but he wants
No,
to
they
tell them
don't.
about it.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. But and I have watched you over the last 2 years. Robert had a very good staff, and you could recognize that on the sidelines. Your turn to step into Robert's place. No, you're not going to be Robert. You're going to be Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
You need to be Austin.
Mm-hmm. That was his last conversation with me in his office. I said, I walked in, which he knows everything that goes on. And I walked in there and I said, "I got the job." He goes, "Congratulations." He said, "Don't try to be me. Go be yourself."
I think he said that to us when he was on here too. I think, but that's sincere.
Mm-hmm.
That's who
And-
you need to be.
You know, from the outside looking in, I would just say, you know, that's a tough area. That's a passionate area.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, handle the business you got to handle, do the best that you can do, and people will understand.
Well, there's a
I
lot
mean,
of places.
Put your stamp on it.
Yep.
A lot of
Make it
places,
yours.
Coach, that you can get that first job, and it might not be the perfect job.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because and I keep preaching about what Coach Aikens did, along with you guys and the staff, he's built a program. I think you found a very good place to start coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
This is where I want to retire from. I mean, I know I went to a different school in the area, but I'm a Ringgold Tiger. I feel like I went to school
Have
there.
you told that other area that?
I don't have to.
Well,
Better watch out. They might blackball you down there now.
They might be reaching out to you.
No,
You
I
go
mean-
5-0. Well, let's look at Austin. See if he can't come back.
I love Ringgold. Ringgold's a great place. I feel, and this sounds crazy, it really does, but I feel like I went to school at Ringgold. I feel like I'm in the community. I live 20 minutes away from Ringgold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not paying $220 a square foot to move up here right now.
Yes.
I'm going to get up here. I'm not going to do it in this market.
No,
right now.
I don't blame you a bit.
But I do. I feel like I've been at Ringgold a long time. I feel like I went to Ringgold. Something about Ringgold has me. I don't know. It's like mesmerized or something.
You like to come back and be when you get on that campus. You say, "I like this."
my wife is so tired of my alarm clock going off at 4:30. But honestly, I'll wake up at 4 to 3:30 because I can't wait to get to Tiger
You should
Drive.
call me. I'm up.
I'll call.
I'll coach you. Coach you through your ride.
But I pull up to the stadium, and you see the Jumbotron, you see the brand new turf, you see the stadium, you see the mountains behind the stadium. It's mesmerizing.
And Scott, you've talked about that before too. Not every school has a Jumbotron.
No, they don't.
They really don't. I mean, I think schools are wanting them and getting more and more of them. But I mean, you got one, and I think you're the only one in I think you're the only one in Catoosa County has got one. Right?
We are
at the moment.
I'm sure Lakeview Heritage has got to be.
It's on everybody's wish list right now.
Yeah.
We're building a theater right now, so we'll worry about that other stuff later. I mean,
you're gonna take care of them actors and writers.
That's right. You gotta do what you gotta do.
But that really helps set a tone. Going back to your facilities, Coach. We wish you the best. We wish you the best. Go Tigers!
I appreciate it. God be the glory. This is an unbelievable opportunity for me and my family, and we're gonna make the best of it.
Well, Coach, you couldn't end it with a better statement than that, but I can't say go Tigers. It just ain't in my blood to do that. But
can you at least do it with an Ogeron accent? That way, it's kind of like LSU.
Go Tigers!
There we go. I got him to say it.
No, it's no, man. We appreciate you taking the time to come on the show with us today. I mean, Scott's right. I mean, Lord, I can remember hearing your name said when you guys were in middle school and high school. I mean, it's going back a long time. You know,
Thanks for making me old.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard for us sometimes to sit across from you guys now because, you know, we covered y'all when you played. You know, it's like having Lance Rorax on here or Drew Akins on here. You know, when we saw you guys when you were teenagers, and now you've grown into fine young men, and we applaud everything. I wish you all the best of luck. I mean, even as a Lakeview guy, I wish you guys all luck. Let's keep it in the county. I mean, let's do it that way. So, well, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate Austin Crisp taking the time to come on and kick off this kind of march into football season. We'll see who our Fritzy here at Scenic City Sports and Scott that can get us for next week. But appreciate you, Austin, for coming on with us, guys. The show's brought to you as always by Gary Thacker Insurance, the Chattanooga Flower Market, the Payne Mortgage Team, Choo Choo Barbecue at Chickamauga, and all the All-Star sponsors. We appreciate you taking time to be on with us. And as we ride out to a little fish right here, we will catch you guys on the later side.